All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Merrill's Market Madness. Today, I am coming at you with an update for the Phoenix residential housing market. In particular, we'll be looking at the month of October. Today is November 1st, so the final numbers are in for October. So I'm going to kind of share with you the stats and how the market is performing this October compared to the last couple of Octobers to give you a sense of what's happening in the housing market. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to talk about whether or not it's actually better to rent than to buy, given how high interest rates are right now. It's kind of an interesting conversation that's being had, and I've been seeing a number of news articles and things like that posted. And so we're going to dive into the numbers of an actual home in the Phoenix area that is currently listed both for sale and for rent, and talk about the pros and cons of each. So hopefully it'll be good, valuable information for you, especially if you've been thinking, gosh, I might want to buy a house, but it feels so much cheaper to rent. I think that I'll have some really insightful information for you today. But let's start by just looking, as always, I like to start with, and let me step aside here a little bit. I like to start with how many active listings right now we have. Let me see if I can just turn my screen a little bit here. There we go. We have 15,176 active listings on our market. That is up quite a bit. We were down, in May or June, at our low point this year, we were down to around 8,000 active listings. So the homes are being listed right now much faster than they're selling. And we are seeing what we call the listing success rate of all the homes that come on the market. How many of them are actually selling? And that number is falling right now. A lot of them, we're down right now. We're at 75%, but I suspect that might even fall as low as somewhere around 66% here in November and December. So think of it as, 1/3 of all the homes that are coming on the market are not going to sell. They're going to cancel or expire. Now they might relist eventually and eventually sell, but a lot of listings are not. Right now we're at one in four listings coming on the market not selling. And obviously that could be because the home's overpriced. I do believe that homes that are priced right are still selling. It's not like nothing is selling. Homes are selling, but there are some that aren't. All right. We have right now 6,019 listings that are under contract or pending, 5,149 homes that have sold in the past 30 days, giving us a month supply inventory of 2.95, which is still considered a seller's market in terms of kind of the supply and demand equation. Supply, to only have 15,000 active listings. To give you an idea, this time last year, we had around 20,000 active listings. So while 15,000 might sound like a lot, it's still pretty low given how many, how big the population is and how many homes are selling in a given month. The other challenge with the 15,000 is that in a right now demand is much lower. Fewer buyers are buying, and certainly that is, causing the inventory levels to rise and the month supply of inventory to rise. And demand will probably continue to stay relatively low as long as rates stay this high. But if rates were to moderate, right, if rates were to come down, at some point in the future into the fives or something like that, I don't know what's realistic, but if rates were to come down into the fives, and we went back to selling 8,000 homes a month or 9,000 homes a month, this 15,000 active listing number would be eaten up like that. I mean, it would just be gone so fast. So let's look at kind of the numbers for October, and I apologize. Wow, the glare on my whiteboard is so bad you can barely read that, but I don't know how to get rid of that. So I apologize. But in October this year, we had 5,157 closings for an average price of $575,000. The median price was $540,000. Okay. And the sales to list price ratio of all those homes that sold was 98%. And the homes that sold were on the market for an average of 54 days. Now in 2022, and the reason why I think this is important is because rates in 2022, in October of 2022, were already high. They were around, I don't know if they were at 7, but they were not quite as high as they are today, but they were much higher than they were in 2021. So we had 5,422 closings in October last year. So we did sell slightly fewer homes than October last year, but not much. The amount of homes selling right now, very similar to where we were at last year. This number was absolutely fascinating to me. The average price of homes in October of 2022 was $541,964. The days on market was exactly the same. You really can't see that because of the glare on my screen, but it was also 54 days on market. So all the numbers were really similar except the average price. So the average price rose from 2022 to 2023, 541 to 575. That is a 6.2% increase in the average price year over year. The reason why that number is so shocking to me is that the average prices rose by 6%. Now, in all fairness, the median price isn't up that much. The median price is more like 2 or 3%. But even still, home prices are rising at somewhere between 3 and 6%, depending on how you want to track it, with almost 8% interest rates. That should tell you what I've been trying to say about supply. With supply being so limited, there's so few homes available for sale, given the number of buyers who want to buy, that even despite the almost 8% rates, home values have still ticked up. They're not skyrocketing like they were in 2021, but they have still ticked up. Now, in October of 2021, 8,777 units sold. So without a doubt, we're seeing much, much less in terms of how many homes are selling. Not as many transactions are happening. I think everyone knows that. But again, and back then in 2021, the market was still pretty hot. Rates were around 3%. So the sales to list price ratio at that time was 101%. The days on market was 31%. But again, in 2021, the average price was $515. You got to remember, rates started coming up pretty dramatically around April or May of 2022. So even October of 2021 to 2022, we saw home values rise from 515 to 541, and then 22 to 23 rose from 541 to 572. We've seen an 11.6% increase over the last 2 years, despite the high interest rates. So imagine what might happen if rates were to come down. I mean, if even these 8% rates are not preventing home values from rising, then I don't know what will. Ultimately, I just believe that we still have despite the lower demand, despite the high interest rates, we ultimately just don't have enough homes for sale at a given time. And the fact that many would-be sellers are choosing not to sell because they don't want to get rid of their really, really great interest rate. So people are staying put, and that's causing an even more extreme inventory situation, because many people are rate locked, as we would call them, choosing to stay put where they're at. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and transition, and let me just give me 2 seconds here. I want to erase what I have on the board so that I don't have to write it too low, give you all a good angle. I want to talk to you about whether or not it is beneficial to rent or buy. And let me share my screen first, because I do want to show you all an article that was put out by the Wall Street Journal. And I'm going to try to get really, really tactical and show you some very specific numbers here, because I think that you guys will all find this fascinating. So let's see here. I was hoping that it would let me share my entire window. There we go. Let's do that. Share my window. Boom. Okay. So the Wall Street Journal put out this article. Hopefully, I hope you guys are seeing the Wall Street Journal and not my super cluttered, ridiculous desktop. I'm working on a split screen right now, so hopefully this is working. I think it is. But the Wall Street Journal put out this article about a week ago now, saying there's never been a worse time to buy instead of rent. It is now 52% more expensive to buy a home than to rent because of the interest rates. And interestingly, let's stop sharing here really quick. One thing that's really interesting is that we are seeing home prices rise, right? So despite the rates, home values are still rising. Rents have really flattened. In fact, average rents in many parts of the valley have actually dipped a little bit. So in many ways, I can see where they're coming from on that. And I wanted to share with you, I'm going to pull up a house. Let me reshare my screen. Maybe I shouldn't have stopped sharing it in the first place. But I want to show you a house that is currently for sale in Phoenix. And the reason why I think it's pertinent is because it's also for rent. Okay. And it's this house right here. And the reason I chose this house, listed at 445,000, the median price is 440. So I wanted a home that was really, really close to that. And some of these other homes are not also listed for rent. So that's why I chose this house. I thought it was indicative of, kind of your average, typical run-of-the-mill median home in terms of the price that it's asking and kind of what the taxes on it were. And I wanted to run a payment scenario for you. All right. So this house asking 445. I'm going to assume in our math equation here that we get a little bit of a deal on it and we get it for 440. So that way I can bring it down right to the median price. This home is also listed for rent at $2,000 per month. Okay. So if you plug those numbers into a mortgage calculator, this is my favorite mortgage calculator to use, by the way. You've got a $440,000 purchase price. I'm assuming a 5% down payment because I wanted to go with a minimal down payment. Obviously, there's a lot of variables when we start, talking about how much is your monthly payment going to be? Are we buying down the rate? Are we paying mortgage insurance? How much money are we putting down? What kind of loan type are we using? There's tons of variables. But for this, I'm using a 5% down conventional mortgage. Okay. And on a 30-year term. I have it starting in January of 2024 because I wanted to be able to see a full year worth of how much are you paying in principal and how much are you paying in taxes and insurance and all that. You're going to have some mortgage insurance. I'm estimating about $100 a month for your homeowner's insurance policy. This one does have a bit of an expensive HOA at $165 a month. Okay. Oh, and the rate, I use 7.75%, which I pulled up the average 30-year fixed rate conventional mortgage price before doing the show today, and it was at 7.77. So kind of went right at what is a typical rate. You're looking at a monthly payment of this house at $3,592.27 a month. And again, the home is listed for rent at only $2,000 a month. Okay. So if you just look at that math right there, it's obvious, right? That it's much, much better to rent it. Right. But I wanted to kind of dispel, my hope is to educate you guys all on some of the other math related to owning a home versus renting. And I apologize, this video is going to be a little long, but I just really think that this is important for people to understand. So if you look at that mortgage calculator, in the first year of a mortgage, the way a mortgage is amortized, you're paying mostly interest in the beginning and very, very little principal. But even with the very little principal that you pay in the first year, okay, the first year, and I'm gonna let me pull this up here. I just want to make sure you can see what I'm writing on the board. Okay, so in the first year, you're gonna pay in principal. Let me make sure I've got the exact amount here. $3,668. $3,668.27. Oh, no. $3,668.74. Sorry, I've got too many numbers written down. Okay. In other words, your loan balance is going to be paid down by $3,600 for the whole year. And the reason why that matters is because as long as the home value doesn't fall, that's basically money that you're putting into savings. I know it's not exactly the same as a savings account because what's in a savings account is liquid. But your net worth, let's just pretend the value of the home is flat. Every single month, yeah, you've got this $3,600 a month payment, but $305.73. So if we take this and divide it by 12, okay, on average, in the first year of your mortgage, you're paying $305.73 towards your principal, which basically means that each month you're increasing your net worth. $305 worth of your payment is going to increase your net worth by paying down your liability. Okay. Now, that's not a lot. That still doesn't make up the gap between renting and buying. So now let me move over to appreciation. If we go all the way back to 1962, which is as far back as I've been able to find really good, reliable data, the home values in the U.S. have risen by about 5.5% per year. I just showed you that despite the high interest rates that we're having, the home prices in the Phoenix area rose 6.2% or something like that over the past year. So I'm going to assume that you buy a house and the value is not going to be flat. I'm going to assume that it goes up at an average of 5% per year. So that means if you bought a $440,000 house, a year from now, it will be worth $462,000. Now, Obviously, home appreciation is not a flat line. Sometimes it's going to go up more than that. Sometimes it's going to go up less than that. But let's just assume an average of 5%. When you own that home, it's going to go up an average of 5% per year. That means that you're going to gain in appreciation. Okay, so this is number one is your principal. Okay, so $305.73 per month is what you're paying down towards your principal, increasing your net worth by that amount. Okay, the second item is your appreciation. The home is going to appreciate by $22,000 in the first year, which comes out to $1,833 per month. Okay, that is, we're calling that appreciation. All right, so the value, your net worth is going up by $305 by paying down your principal, and then another $1,800 a month because of the appreciation. I'm going to add appreciation there because app doesn't, it looks like I'm talking about an app to download on your phone or something like that. But wait, there's more. Okay, now I want to move into your interest. So this one's a little bit more confusing, but in year one, now again, mortgages, it's not a flat line. Every single payment that you make, you pay a little more in principal and a little less in interest. But the total amount of interest that you're going to pay in year one is $32,266. Now this one, you're gonna have to bear with me here for a second. The interest that you pay on your home is most likely, I'm not an accountant, but it is most likely tax deductible. All right. There's some, some exceptions, there's some limitations, but the vast majority of people who own a home are able to write off their interest. The very few people who can't do it. And if you're able to write off your interest, let's just assume that you're paying 20% in taxes. Well, now you have a $32,000 tax write-off, which is going to save you, it's going to reduce your tax liability by 20% of that amount, which comes out to $6,453 for the year, or $538 per month. Okay, $538 per month in interest. I'm sorry, not interest, tax savings. Apparently I forgot how to write. Okay, so if you take all of those, right, you're paying down your principal by almost $306 a month. You're gaining $1,800 in appreciation, and you're saving potentially $538 a month in tax liability. Then that comes out to $2,600. The total amount of potential savings or net worth gain that you get by buying the house, $2,676.73. In other words, I could make a strong argument that by owning a home conservatively, your net worth is going to go up by about $2,676 per month. Now, the rent is $2,000 a month. The mortgage payment is $3,600. But basically, all but $900 a month of that payment, you're getting back in appreciation or in principal increases and in tax savings, right? And then there's all the other benefits of owning a home that aren't necessarily, mathematical, right? Being able to paint it whatever color, well, the HOA might have a say, being able to paint the inside whatever color you want, or being able to put things in, make improvements to it, and the stability of owning a home, and all the other benefits of owning a home. But if you really just look at the math, right? Yes, on paper, holy cow, mortgage payment $3,600 a month, rent is only $2,000 a month, no brainer to rent. But if you really dive into the numbers and start looking at how much is my net worth going to improve by owning a home as opposed to renting, let's also not forget a huge factor. When you buy the home, the payment stays the same. That $3,600 a month payment isn't going to change. Well, it could change by $10 or $20 or $30 a month after your escrow, your property taxes go up, your insurance goes up. So there'll be some slight fluctuations, but your rent payments are almost guaranteed to rise much more dramatically. And hypothetically, if you kept this mortgage for 30 years, now the home's completely paid off and all you're paying is the HOA and the taxes and the insurance. Versus when you're renting a home, you're you're never going to pay it off, and you're just going to always have to rent for forever. Theoretically, with a house, now I know a lot of people end up moving or refinancing or whatever, but theoretically with a house, you could make that payment for 30 years and be done. Or if you could even muster the ability to make some extra payments. I know that's tough right now with how how high the payments are in the first place, but I just want you to think about 30 years ago, 1993. Unfortunately, I don't have the data, but what was the median home price in Phoenix in 1993? I'm sure that people then felt like it was expensive, just like the people today feel like it's expensive. My guess is that it was around $130,000, maybe $150,000. The monthly payment on that house, had you kept that mortgage for 30 years, your monthly payment on that house would have been, $600, $700, $800, $900 a month, depending on your rate and the terms and all that stuff. That would feel easy to make that payment in today's money, right? And so I think a strong argument could be made that right now, maybe you can't afford the extra payments, but 10 or 20 years from now, that payment's going to feel like it was awesome, especially if rates do come down and there's an opportunity to refinance. So sorry, this one was so long, but I stand by the idea that it is still, despite the high rates, it is still much better to buy than to rent from a standpoint of how much am I able to grow my wealth, grow my money, increase my net worth, have stability for my family. So I don't think if you're purely choosing to rent because you think it's a smarter decision, I hope that I was able to debunk that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other reasons why people rent besides just the math, and you've got to evaluate your own situation. But anyway, hopefully I was able to share some interesting stuff with you guys today that maybe you hadn't considered. And if you have any questions, or you would like me to break anything else down, or you want to know the value of your home or what's going on in the market, or you'd like to have a deeper conversation about your personal situation and determine whether it's the right time for you to consider buying a home, I would love to talk. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon.